Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Picking and Putting. Dr. Z here, coming from the regional studios in Puebla, Mexico, along with Liberty Bill from his South Charlotte estate.
Yeah, it
How
looks
you
a lot
doing, Bill?
sunnier where you are. We got a storm coming in here in Charlotte, but you got sunshine.
Yeah, well, we're recording this on the Force Be With You Day, but we're celebrating Cinco de Mayo Day here. So, little Mexican heritage. We're going with it. You got Ricardo here, Guillermo over there. He didn't know I could say that in Spanish. So, okay, I got a quick shout out. My shout out, you're going to like this. I'm going to give you guys some historical references here. My shout out is to General Ignacio Zaragoza. You want to know who he was?
I got no idea who he is.
He was the guy who led the battle on Cinco de Mayo where the Mexicans won. And we'll get into that, why that's important in a little bit. Who you got a shout out to?
I got a shout out to the Carolina Hurricanes. We're recording this about an hour and a half before they start off game two. But boy, game one, after the first 10 minutes, they looked like they were in trouble. They completely turned it around, and I'm expecting a deep run this year for the Canes. You know, the Bruins knocked them out in 2020 and 2019. It's time for the Canes to knock out the Bruins. This is the year.
Well, it'd be kind of fun to see the Toronto too make a run on the Lightning. You know, I kind of get it. We'll get into that in terms of the NBA and the playoffs too, because I love the hockey playoffs. They're always, you know, so much faster and fun. Well, here we go. I'm going to tell you about this dude. So General Ignacio Zaragoza, and by the way, 4 days later he died of typhoid fever. But
he went out on top.
Yeah, he went out on top. On May 5th, 1862, the Battle of Puebla, which is right behind me in Mexico. And the Mexicans defeated the French, who were, when Napoleon was there, he put Maximilian, he put an emperor in charge of Mexico. Remember all that? So this was the first time where they were making a pushback. And in this battle, they beat the French. 500 French died and 100 Mexicans died on the Cinco de Mayo battle. And it was the beginning of the downfall of the French when by 1867 it had fallen. And now Mexico went back to being, you know, a democratic working country, or at least working on it. So that's who that guy is. And that's why Cinco de Mayo is famous. I didn't know. I mean, in the United States, it's about drinking Corona Lights.
Yeah,
you know?
Corona definitely took it and turned it into a marketing thing. But it is nice to actually know the real reason and the name of the general now, to have a little historical context.
Yeah, it wasn't started by Constellation Brands, for all you folks out there. By the way, Constellation Brands, we'll take your advertisements if you'll let us.
Yes. Oh, yes. We'll sample all your products, every single one of them.
One last little piece of trivia. How long do you think the Battle of Puebla lasted?
12 days.
No, it was from dawn to dusk, and then it was history. Everybody went home.
Oh, there we go.
But that's okay. That's good. We got into that. We'll get into that. Get into a little whatever you want to go. We go to the hockey or NBA.
I say we start with the NFL draft. We're coming off of that. And, you know, neither of us are really scouts, right? We're not like grinding the film or anything. So I always like to look at just the process. I thought the Panthers process was really sound. You can tell this general manager, Scott Fitterer, that they have now, with all of his experience and success at Seattle, clearly knows what he's doing. They held patient. They were able to get one of those second three quarterbacks, Malik Willis, Sam Howell, or Desmond Ridder. And they ended up with Matt Corral, and who knows? Maybe, I think Matt Corral will be better than Sam Darnold. So why not give a shot? And if Matt Corral doesn't work out, take another quarterback down the road. But this is a much better outcome than going after a Baker Mayfield. And then the Panthers didn't have a lot of picks entering the draft. They ended up with more coming out of it, and they just drafted a bunch of high upside athletes at the end. So I don't think you can really fault their process this year. I thought they did a nice job.
I'll tell you what's changed about the draft is the money, the finances, and what is interesting. If you watch the draft now, that what they want is the guys on their rookie contract 4 years, then we'll decide plus minus on the 5th year. And so they feel like they've got them on a steal, even first round draft picks. And the place where they're especially doing that, and the example is, of course, the wide receiver running back from out west, they decide, you know what, we're not going to pay you $25 million. We'll go ahead and we can get a good receiver. We'll bring him in on a rookie contract and fit him into our system. And that's what they're doing. I mean, it's just like, Kansas City kid going to Miami. They said, well, okay, we'll plug in another guy. We got a great quarterback.
And we're paying Pat Mahomes $50 million. We can't pay Tyreek Hill $30 million. So we need to go out and draft somebody.
And understand too, that's the adjustment for his whole career. I mean, Brady could have made probably, $400, $500 million more, but he always took less because he didn't need it with his wife and everything. And he made up for it in sponsorship, and he was smart enough to know, if I take a little less in salary and we win I'll make more in sponsorship because I'm going to win another Super Bowl. Right. Yeah. I think that was the thing I took away watching the whole draft from all the teams. It used to be, well, it wasn't until the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round that they would say they got something. But this time I felt like people were going, nah, we're not going to trade up. Nobody was going to trade up. It was interesting. I don't know that this quarterback class was so poor. I think you're going to find that it was the best thing that it could happen to those kids. I mean, the guy who got taken the 1st round was native born, spent his whole college career in Pittsburgh. They knew him. Pickett, yep. So that's fine. And that's fine. Roethlisberger, I don't fault them. Roethlisberger just retired. Take him. If you think he's the guy, take him. No, I think that's right. And I think the other guys, I think it's the best thing that happened to Sam Howell. And I don't know about Desmond Ridder. We'll see what happens there, but it's sort of the same thing in Atlanta. He's got a chance. And Malik Willis too. He's going to back up Tannehill. And Sam Howell especially is very similar to Carson Wentz. Right. So it should be the same offense. And I could see it. I bet by Halloween, Sam Howell's in there, though. Well, the deal with Sam Howell, for you folks out there, is North Carolina quarterback. I saw him for 3 years, and he, his last year, he didn't have as many weapons, so he had to run. But the NFL obviously can't do that. But boy, he throws the best deep ball you've ever seen. He throws it just like the guy at LA, Stafford. He just reminds me of that, only he's not as big. But he throws, he can throw it 80 yards on a rope. Yep. So give him some time and the receivers that can get down the field, good things will happen. So let me take the football thing another direction. So this NIL stuff, everybody's online and complaining and all this. And I think this is going to be interesting because the NCAA is they can't do anything now because they lost in the Supreme Court. And their president just resigned. Yeah. And that what gets me, the part that bothers me is, for example, so the Southern Cal coach went, and a kid who hadn't even entered the portal at Pittsburgh. Now his quarterback was gone, but it was a great receiver, all ACC. He went in and basically said, come to Southern Cal and we'll guarantee, X million of dollars or whatever from a car dealers and everything. And kind of recruited him with dollars when he hadn't even said he wanted to transfer. And that's almost in the NFL or NBA or something, you'd call it tampering. And I don't control. Yeah. I think, and I saw Gene Smith, former Ohio State athletic director, came out and said on the record that he's recommending the power conferences break away. So where I think this is heading very soon, actually, for football and basketball, is the power conferences starting their own thing. These athletes becoming employees with contracts, right? With a salary, with health benefits, with all that. And It's
That's
minor
what it'll
league.
be. And my concern is, what does that do? I think it's better for football, but what does that do to the NCAA tournament? Do we still have an NCAA tournament with the Cinderellas and the big conferences?
Yeah,
I would hope so. I think that's why the TV contract is as large as it is. And I don't think it would be as big as if it was just the power conferences playing themselves. That's my concern. But I think it's obvious that it's heading very quickly. And Northwestern, people forget this, like 10 years ago, the players at Northwestern like formed a union and said, here's what we should do, become employees with a contract. And Pat Fitzgerald just kind of said, they're right. And now here we are. I think that's where this is headed.
Well, and point well taken. So these kids with the NBA draft, the thing was one and done and all this kind of thing. But now what happened with like the kid at Kentucky or the entire North Carolina team, like 2 or 3 of those guys could have gone and would have been on somebody's team. I'm not sure they'd be starters, but they would all been in the NBA. They're all coming back. And this is one of the reasons Baycott's coming back, because he was.
Well, I don't think Baycott is an NBA player.
No, well, I know, but see, he's going to come back
but he'll be ACC Player of the Year.
Well, he may be National Player of the Year because he'll be an automatic triple double, and and he'll get drafted by the NBA is the point. Will he be a great NBA player? No, not unless he develops some kind of, jump shot or whatever. But that being said, it's still, and he'll get his college degree and he'll stay on campus and whatever.
And, he's appearing in this Netflix season of the show Outer Banks.
Yeah.
So he's already becoming like a little good for him. I hope he takes 1 credit hour and just like does all this celebrity stuff on the side.
But it really does change the hard part about college football for me. And I agree with you on the basketball, is that I think everybody kind of realizes that it's become the Ohio State. That's why the Notre Dame coach left. It's become the Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia.
And Clemson's done, by the way. And there's a gap there for UNC with their focus on NIL and branding and all the money there. There's a gap there in this part of the country for UNC to take Clemson's seat at the table there.
Well, yeah, the other team that's going to make a comeback probably this year is Florida State within the ACC.
Florida and Miami.
And Miami.
All those. Yep.
And Miami, because
that Miami quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, he could be your number 1 pick next year. But all 3 of those teams are coming.
But I agree with you. I don't know what'll happen with the basketball. Well, what do you think about the NBA? The NBA playoffs this Ja Morant is just fun to watch. And of course, I love watching Golden State, but it's interesting when the playoffs started, almost just right before your eyes, the injuries. So Philadelphia is probably, not that they wouldn't have lost anyways, but if they lose game 2, I mean, they're going to lose, because you can't play without Embiid. And then, Booker got hurt with Phoenix, although it looks like they're weathering that storm. And, it's kind of, I'm holding my breath on Golden State. So it looks like, I mean, if you had to guess, you're saying, well, you're going to have Golden State and Phoenix and Miami and Milwaukee, I guess, right? Or it could still be the Celtics. I'm not blowing the Celtics off.
Golden State lost one of their key defensive pieces, Gary Payton II. Gary Payton, former Sonics point guard's son, last night on a dirty play. That could be a problem. But that's what I like about this era of the NBA is the super teams thing doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Like there's just too much talent now. It's too spread out. LeBron's old, Kevin Durant's getting old, James Harden's getting up there. And there's too many other superstars. You mentioned Ja, Giannis, Luka Doncic, LaMelo here is coming. So I don't think the super team thing is going to work anymore. And it makes for a hell of a lot more fun and a lot more parity. And that Grizzlies Warriors series feels like an NBA Finals. Those are 2 really good teams.
Yeah, they're fun. Well, yeah, one's already there and one's on their way back up. Yeah, it's well, I think you're right. I think Brooklyn was the end of the attempt to have a great team. And
in grandiose fashion, they were still the Vegas favorites to win the NBA championship, even coming in as a play-in, and it just never worked. It failed in spectacular fashion.
Here's my hope that the NBA expands to the Saskatchewan Gray Rockets, and that they trade Kyrie Irving there and pay him $50 million a year to play with 4 Eskimos.
And we stopped talking about him, and we stopped interviewing him and worrying about his crazy Eskimos out there.
Yeah. He's just, I'm tired of him. But
I'm very fatigued with him.
Well, and here's the other one. I think at this point in time, LeBron, for example, ought to just call it a day. Or they're not going to come back, and nobody wants the LA job. Why would you want to come in there with that as a coach?
LeBron's not a very good general manager, is he?
No. Well, and why would you want to come in there as a coach with the only reason you would want that job is this money?
No. And actually related to coaching search, that first batch of interviews for the Hornets gig, I see why they fired James Borrego now. It's not necessarily a knock on Borrego. The Hornets were getting better, but they're going for some stars here. Mike D'Antoni, Kenny Atkinson, and they might be in talks with Quinn Snyder.
Well, the problem with D'Antoni is he's a great offensive mind, but they'd have to have an assistant coach to coach defense.
You absolutely would.
But
and that's been done before.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I'd like to see Michael Jordan as an owner come back and make something happen. I mean, in the Carolina market, our football and soccer owner is starting to remind me of somebody from just outside Dallas, Texas. and
he just flies off the handle and has seemingly no plan and fires people constantly.
I think
it's not great. Not great.
Yeah, especially on the FC soccer side. I think you have to let it kind of play out. You're not going to win the MLS Cup in the first 2 years,
Thank God for Mitch Kupchak in this town. Mitch Kupchak knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, what I heard was possible there is Mitchell just, he's Michael's age. He would just go ahead and either retire or become a consultant at some point. Not because he get fired, just because he's tired of the rigmarole.
I love that. You'd love to have him around if you were a younger person stepping in. He's had a ton of success.
But I agree with you. I think they'll be fun to watch. Well, what do you think about baseball? It's early yet, but these Yankees, I mean, what do they want? 11 in a row, and I don't ever baseball. I never make a comment really until you get to July 1st.
Yeah.
Then you kind of got to feel, right now you'd sit there and say, well, it's Yankees and the Dodgers, bam. Whatever.
Yeah, the Blue Jays are really fun. They're going to be right there. And I would say the one thing that actually just kind of dawned on me is I'm worried about the White Sox. I mean, they're as talented as anybody in baseball, but they're too one-dimensional. They have a bunch of right-handed power hitters that love first pitch fastballs. And you need like a lefty or a switch hitter, somebody that'll take a bunch of pitches or foul a bunch off or work a count. That's more of a slappy hitter. And they don't really have that. Yohan Moncada was supposed to be that. And even he has kind of turned into this all or nothing type of hitter. So I'm a little worried about, and they've had a ton of injuries. They're off to a really rough start, whereas the Minnesota Twins are rolling. So I'm a little worried about the White Sox, even though it's very early.
Well, I'd like to see baseball go back towards, you've gone to some AAA games here, and they're
and they're taking 2.5 hours by.
Yeah, and they've sped up. They've sped up the process in this, and after this spring where you had that one guy threw 2 perfect games and he got yanked for number of pitches. He was at 100 or something in one of them. I'm not sure. You know who I'm talking about? The one guy was
Clayton Kershaw. And that was really because all of a sudden they started playing. They didn't have a long enough spring training to ramp up,
right?
Especially a pitcher like that with the injuries. But even if that happened in August, they're so sensitive now. And they have so much information that they can kind of tell when the arm is tired, and they'd rather preserve it for the playoff games that really matter than.
But I'm also talking about that kid in Japan that had like 2 of them. He's 21 years old and the guy pulled him, like in the 8th inning with perfect game. And you're going, really? I mean, I get it with Kershaw. I mean, he's got all the accolades. He's going to the Hall of Fame. So, and
they got bigger fish to fry in October. He wants another
bigger fish to fry in October. I agree with you. So we shall see. Well, it's kind of a interesting month. It's all the sports kind of you transition. I still think that I'd love to see the NBA go to where they started their playoffs closer to the end of the Final Four, where you're really into it, And without Baffert at the Kentucky Derby.
Oh yeah, that's this weekend, right? Yeah, I wonder how many more years we're gonna have of that. I actually read today we're down to 2 Greyhound tracks, both in West Virginia. I mean, horse racing's not going to be too long after that.
Well, either that or it depends on the DraftKings and all those kind of things. If they get involved and they have more of an insight in it,
Yeah, that's the thing. I'd love to bet on Mo Dungle. Mo Dungle, that'd be my horse this weekend.
I don't know any of the horses' names. I'd have to go look them up. So,
Mo Dungle, that's the one.
Okay.
And actually, I have one last shout out. You were talking earlier about the hockey playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't watch hockey during the regular season. I just hop on the bandwagon in the playoffs. Go Canes. ESPN now has the rights to NHL, and it's such a better broadcast than what NBC had been doing the last few years. And it's actually great for the NHL because now in hotels, bars, lobbies, everywhere that has ESPN and ESPN2 just on, these NHL playoffs are going to be on everywhere, every night. So I will give ESPN a shout out. They've done a really nice job with the broadcasts.
Well, it's always the most fun. The only thing that was weird is when Fox did it with the lightning bolt pucks,
the blue puck.
Yeah. I actually kind of like that. They ought to bring that back, do it in 3D.
They should have an alternative broadcast, the blue puck broadcast.
Well, for you folks on YouTube, you have to take a look at my background. This is a classic square in Mexico, and they're all beautiful. And that's where the people hang out on the weekends. I lived there for a while, and it's not in this town, but they all kind of have that similarity around the church. So go there. I got a couple quotes for you. These are Mexican quotes. So they're not that special, but these kind of tell you where you are. It says from our casa to your casa, and you say magic, we say Mexican. And the best one is that this was in Spanish, but I've converted it. Life is a long lesson in humility. And today we're sure into that. So
ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth? Well, we got a lot of good playoff games tonight. Go celebrate Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, folks. From us at Pickin' and Puttin' and Liberty Bill and his South Charlotte studios, and me in Puebla, Mexico, with the general who's dead. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks for being here. See you later, Billy.
Happy May the 4th. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, happy May the 4th and Cinco. See you later, baby.